Well, hey, everybody, welcome to Afterthought. I'm Taylor,
I'm Greg.
and we're here to recap this Easter Sunday's sermon, which was out of John chapter 20, which is John's account of the resurrection story. We see Mary Magdalene going to the empty tomb. She finds it is completely empty. There's the clothing that's on the ground, and she can't find Jesus. I'm kind of curious. Out of all the different gospels and all the different accounts of the resurrection, what was it that led you to this particular account in John chapter 20?
I don't know. I mean, I was, first of all, Easter, it's the same story every year, right?
Yes,
It's
never
this timeless
changes.
story. We're going to talk resurrection in some way, and part of it was looking over the last few years. Okay, so where have we been? Whether it be in John chapter 11, the resurrection of Lazarus, Jesus raising him from the dead. 1 year, 2 Corinthians 5:17, if any man is in Christ, he's a new creation, which kind of took us out of the resurrection narrative. One year we were teaching through the book of John, and so John 9, the man who was blind from birth.
Yeah, that's right.
And I don't know. I was looking at all the accounts, and I was really taken with this one primarily because of where we landed on this whole idea of he was hiding in plain sight, that he's right there and they don't recognize him, and then they're hiding in a room and he shows up. You know, I mean, there's just a lot of just hiding in plain sight ideas. And so as I was reading through it and just kind of thinking, that's what emerged with me, this whole idea of hiding in plain sight. And of course, I talked a little bit about it with, kind of hide and seek with kids.
Yeah.
The younger they are, the more you want to hide in plain sight,
Right.
mainly to get the game over
Yeah,
with.
that's right. Yeah, you don't want it to last more than a few seconds.
Yeah. It's like, hey, what else can we do? Or go find something else to do.
That's right. I don't know though. The other side of that was you said you sometimes would go find a hard place to find in the dark and take a nap. And I mean, Jesus likes naps.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean,
Well, I mean, for me, it's healthy.
yeah, that's right.
I mean, you always want to be rejuvenated.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm guilty of both.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting because you kind of pulled out this idea that Jesus is playing the easiest game of hide and seek of all time, right? And that's what I loved about John chapter 20 is the whole time it's kind of paralleling, Mary Magdalene to ourselves going, hey, Jesus is standing right before her and she's looking at the empty tomb and her initial thought wasn't, oh, wow, look, it's Jesus. It was, who's taken his body?
Well, a couple of things were at play. First, because we know the rest of the story and we've read the narrative in all of the Gospels where he keeps telling them what he's going to do.
Right.
This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. And then when it happens, they don't get it. They don't see it.
Yep.
Like it makes more sense that the body was stolen
Right.
than he had done exactly what he said he was going to do.
right.
So that's one thought, and then the other thought is here she is. He's right in front of her and she can't see it because she was looking for the dead Jesus, not the live one.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
so
true.
that's another interesting thing that like there's no way in her mind he was alive. So when he's right in front of her, she's thinking of everything but that because that just seems to be the most logical.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is logical versus illogical. It didn't make sense to her or anybody else. You mentioned it a second ago. We know the end of the story. I mean, even as people who don't necessarily follow Jesus, they've heard this story likely at least once in their life, right? Whether it was through a video or through an article or just a simple reference, right? Like everybody's fairly familiar with the end of this story, whether they believe it or not. But there's a difference between hearing it and believing it, and it's hard for many to believe because it's illogical. It doesn't make sense. People don't come back from the dead, right? But we don't serve a God who fits in the framework of only logical things.
Well, even though Jesus brought Lazarus back from the dead, they were there for that. Jesus brought the centurion's kid back from the dead. He brought the processional that was going out of town and the kid's dead. And he tells the wife, hey, it's okay. And the kid gets up.
Right.
I mean, we see resurrection. He raised people from the dead throughout the Gospels. So it's not like there was no bandwidth for this.
They had seen it.
Yeah, they had seen it with their eyes, but yet I think it falls in the category of, well, that's good enough for other people, but not good enough for me.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Well, you had mentioned, and you said this a second ago, but you had mentioned, the disciples struggle with recognizing the resurrection for what it was and believing that it was real. So I'm sure that there's many people either watching or maybe people that they know sitting next to them right now at work, at the desk next to them, the cubicle next to them, the neighbor in the neighborhood. They may know people who have this same struggle of seeing versus believing. And so, how do you believe, as followers of Jesus, we can ensure we don't miss the significance of this resurrection in our daily lives? Like, what would you say? What does that mean?
Well, I referenced it a little bit, maybe not in every service, but I think about uh, the number one way I see the resurrection of Jesus being real is because I see it, number one, in my own life. I know who I was. I was really, really broken, and Jesus brought me back to life. But then I see it in other people. Like, I think about Taylor, we've known each other for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And you started working here 7 months ago ish.
9 months ago now, yeah.
Yeah. And you're not the person you were when you started.
That's right.
And I could go through the hallway and I could talk about the changed lives that I've seen, but then I just look in the congregation and I spend a fair amount of time counseling with people, and I know people's struggles and their stories and where they were and where they are now. And the number one evidence for the resurrection for me is the value of a changed life.
Yeah.
And when you see it in other people, it lends validity
Right.
to the resurrection. So I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, so that's how I know that it's real, because I see it in other people.
Right.
I also functionally, and I didn't talk about this on Sunday, but think about these guys, 11 disciples, Judas offed himself, but these other 11 guys, is it okay for me to say?
I think that's okay to say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah. So you've got these 11 guys. Something happened. The night he was crucified, they're scattered to the four winds, and then within a couple of months, they're willing to die for this cause. So I always get to, well, would you die for a lie?
Right.
Like, if it weren't true, would you say, well, I kind of committed to it, so I got to keep up the airs, even if I know it's going to cost me my life? I don't know a single person that would die for a lie that they knew was a lie.
Right.
Now, there are people that are deceived that are willing.
They're fully convinced of the lie being true.
Right.
Yeah.
And are willing to die for that. But are they fully convinced that this is true, even though it's not, and they're willing to die for it?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
There's too much evidence that points to it being true, and part of that is what I see in other people. Part of it is what I see in them.
Right.
They were willing, historically, it is a historical fact that these disciples, the people that followed Jesus, died horrible deaths.
Right.
It's written in the annals of history.
That's right.
And so something changed, and so I'm going with they saw Jesus.
Yeah, that's right. No, 100%. Yeah. You also pointed out, and I loved this point, and I think you spent a significant amount of time on it because it was valuable. This idea that Mary Magdalene being the first person to the tomb after Jesus' burial was kind of scandalous. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so you look in Mark's account, Luke's account, it says that she had 7 demons cast out of her by Jesus.
Right.
So her life was changed by Jesus, but she had a past.
Right.
So it would have been scandalous, number one, because she was a woman, because any eyewitness in a court of law that was a woman would be that would be thrown out.
Dismissed.
Because women were less than in Jewish culture. And then couple that with the fact that she had this past. That is scandalous that she would be the first one at the tomb.
Yeah.
Somebody said something interesting to me in the lobby on Sunday morning. They said, you know why it was her, the woman in the garden? Because of the woman in the garden. That it was this redemption of Eden. That through a woman sin entered the world, and now through this woman she gets to witness the restoration of all things.
Right.
The resurrection.
That's
and
interesting. I've never read that, never heard that.
Yeah,
but that
very
is
interesting point.
Whether it's true or not, I mean, it's kind of cool to think about.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that we could go, oh, that's a good point.
That's right.
Don't know if it's true or not, but I found that really fascinating.
That is interesting.
Yeah, and so you think about it. I mean, where that applies to you and me, we invalidate ourselves so much.
Yeah.
We feel like there's an asterisk beside our name because of our shame. We take ourselves out of the game.
That's right.
We're unworthy. God can never use me, and because of something that I've done.
No.
And we talk about a lot that your Ephesians 2:10 calling often runs right through the middle of your deepest pain.
Yeah, that's right.
It'll take the worst moment of your life, he'll redeem it, and then he'll use that as the platform for your life. And we see it right here in Mary Magdalene.
That's right.
I've seen it in my own life.
Yeah.
I mean, the name on the sign is my story. And so if it's, it's good enough for her.
That's right.
It's good enough for Jesus.
Yeah.
It's good enough for me. Yeah.
I do think we invalidate ourselves. We unqualify ourselves. Growing up as an athlete, you're always trying to perform to gain a spot on the depth chart, right? You want to be number one, number two at the very least, right? But to do that, you've got to have the right stats, right? Which means that you have to have the right history.
Like 3 basketball championships.
Right, something like that. Yeah.
Hypothetically.
And so for me, there was always this idea that if I didn't perform, if I didn't have the right statistics, if I didn't have the right performance, if I didn't have the right history, the background, right, that I was unqualified for slot number 1, right?
Right.
And I think as an athlete, over time, that translated into my faith too, right? Where you're like, well, I've got to perform for God. I've got to, in a sense, earn my way into this qualification. That's obviously not the case, right? Because in John chapter 20, we see Mary Magdalene, who comes from Magdala, which we know to be a city that was full of a lot of unclean things, prostitution amongst a handful of other things, right? And we don't know her story, her particular individual story, but we know where she came from, and we know there's probably a storied past there, right? And yet,
she was a devil woman at some point.
At some point, that's what we know. And so, what we see here, and I love this idea of tying the garden to the garden, right? Is that it doesn't matter how far you've run or where you've gone or the things that you've done. What matters is that and you said this on Sunday, Jesus was brutally beaten. He carried the cross. He was hung on it. He took his last breath. He died, was buried, but then 3 days later was like, hey, I'm back, And then he spent a few more days kind of meeting with some different people and proving his resurrection before he ascended to heaven, and obviously imparted the Holy Spirit on us. But the point is there's no exclusion. That's what I love about the gospel of Jesus. There's no exclusion, right? It doesn't say, for God so loved the world, except for. It says, for God so loved the world, right?
Well, we've been in Matthew for the last year and a half, but Matthew chapter 16, Jesus tells Peter he's going to found the church. Then some stuff happens.
Yeah, that's right.
Like 3-time denial on his record, right? And then Acts chapter 2, filled with the Spirit, he founds the church. So Jesus didn't hold it against him and say, screwed up, you're out.
Right.
Man, you knew what I called you to do, and then you didn't follow through.
That's right.
You disappointed me, so you're out.
Yeah.
Man, thank God for his grace.
Yeah.
That he doesn't hold my past against me. He doesn't hold my presence against me.
Yeah.
Acts chapter 4, Peter and John, before the religious leaders, they were just astonished that these unschooled guys are just spitting truth.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's incredible, and it's just another picture of here. God takes nothing and creates something out of it.
Yeah.
And he uses our nothing as a platform for his something. It's incredible.
Oh, it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And I mean, all throughout Scripture, God has a history of using really the worst of the worst. Murderers, adulterers, I mean, you name it, we see it. And God's like, okay, I don't condone that. In fact, I condemn that. But I condemn the action, not the person. I still love you. I still have a plan and a purpose for you. And that kind of leads me to this next thing here that I wanted to kind of talk about, was you talked about how we oftentimes try to kind of revive the dark places of our life kind of under our own power, under our own resources. So we kind of saw this a little bit in the Alexander story, right? Which was a super powerful story of just kind of this death to life. I mean, obviously we used it on Easter for a reason, right? But what would you challenge or encourage those who are listening, who are going through maybe some similar circumstances? Like, how would you encourage them to find Bible, to find life, to find hope again, much like the Alexanders?
Yeah, so the thing that I loved about the Alexander story was it was kind of everyman.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
good guy, grew up in the church. You know, sitting in the pew on Sunday morning, hungover from the night before.
Yeah. Which I loved your question, by the way.
Well,
It was an accountable question. If you weren't there, Greg asked everyone in attendance by show of hands if anybody was currently hungover.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's a valid question.
Yeah, that's right.
And
we hope that you're comfortable to be at Restoration, even if you are. So
yeah, that's right. That's right. But no one raised their hand.
Nobody raised their hand.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between being hungover and still being drunk too.
Yeah.
So it's
fair point. So, what was the question?
How would you encourage people who are walking through some of the similar circumstances?
Right. The wheels came off for a second. Yeah. So, I said this on Sunday, but this is really kind of this is a talking point for me. In the church I grew up in, we treat symptoms, and we make symptoms the problem.
Yep.
So, drinking, problem; drugs, problem; sex outside of marriage, problem. Yep. None of those things are good, but I think it's easy for us to focus on that being the issue instead of it being a symptom of a greater problem.
Yep.
So those are simply symptoms. Pornography, it's a symptom of a greater problem. Somebody commits adultery. It's a symptom of what's actually going on in their marriage. And so we're trying to find life by medicating. We're all medicating in some way. Yep. Hopefully we're medicating with the word and medicating through intimacy with Jesus. But in the absence of that, most of us, at different times, some of us all the time, we're medicating through these symptoms. Pick one. It's like we lay out, a knife, a hammer, a drill, and we go, hey, pick your poison, right?
Yep.
And we're all medicating in some way. And so instead of trying to find life in the dead thing, let's get to the root of what's making us dead. I say this a lot, or I've said it before. If I have a tumor and it's causing a headache, I can take 4 Advil and knock that headache out. The tumor's still going to kill me.
That's right.
Right? And so I can treat the symptom all day long and I can buy myself some time, but eventually it's gonna take me.
That's right.
And so the best thing for me to do is to get somebody to get that tumor out of there.
That's right.
And so I would say, man, let's start looking at the root. That's why Regen, such a powerful ministry. By the way, this is for you. Regen, 6:30 Monday nights. Everybody needs it. It's a powerful ministry because it is dealing with root issues, getting past the symptoms. If you have anger issues, anger, symptom of something going on. If you have codependence issues, symptom of something going on. Of course, alcohol or drug addiction, symptom of something going on. Pornography, symptom of something going on. On and on and on. We can say anything that you're dealing with is actually a symptom of something deeper.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and just to draw the parallel, when we talk about a brain tumor, we're talking about sin. And when we're talking about a doctor surgically removing it, we're talking about Jesus. And that's the whole point of Easter.
There you go.
Right. It's again, going back to, he died on the cross, was buried, and rose again 3 days later, just like he said he was going to, but he did it, according to John chapter 3, verse 16, because he loved us, right? And so many of us are not just invalidating ourselves, but we're also holding ourselves exempt from that love because we think we know better or that we can do better, or that we can ride this fence a little bit and go, well, I can touch my toe in this Christian thing on Christmas and Easter and maybe Mother's Day to keep mom happy. But then the rest of the time, or even they might even go every Sunday, but Monday through Saturday, they want to live the life they want to live. And we're doing that because we're trying to mask or treat symptoms versus the sin problem that Jesus has already given us the solution for. It's just he gives us free will to choose, and he's not going to force himself upon us to do it, right?
Well, and we spend most of our time hiding.
100%.
I mean, when we're talking about hide and seek, I mean, and what I find pretty incredible is that we're hiding in plain sight. And the thing, most people that are hiding just don't hide very well. Yeah. Like you spend very much time and you can see it right there on the surface. I think they got everybody fooled.
That's
but
right.
you're like, hey, if you know the right questions to ask, in about 30 seconds, you can
Oh,
get
yeah.
to, oh, you got some stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Which, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Man, I would rather us deal with
Mhm.
the stuff.
Yeah.
Let's get to the heart of the
Yeah.
issues
That's right.
and quit trying to medicate our
Yeah.
brokenness.
I went and got a counseling degree just to learn how to ask the right questions. That's really what it was, you know. But to that point, you actually said this in your sermon. You said if your narrative, if your story has something else bringing you to life, so you're masking, you're treating those symptoms, then you went on to say you will often miss Jesus standing right in front of you. And again, that goes back to the story of the Alexanders. You know, he was there the whole time. It's just that at some point they had to open their eyes, look up, and go, oh,
Yeah.
there it is. You know,
Right.
and so I really love that.
And what gets you there is, a lot of time we're looking for rock bottom. And when somebody hits rock bottom when they've lost all other options.
Yeah, that's right.
And sometimes you think somebody's hit rock bottom, but they're still grabbing. And so you're like, not there yet.
Not there yet.
Hey, man, let me know when you get there. Because there will be a point when you finally recognize your way doesn't work. You can't get healing in the ways that you're trying.
Right.
And it will happen or it will kill you.
Yeah.
One of the two.
One of the two.
Yeah.
That's right. When I love the fact, and this is really kind of where you kind of landed the plane, if you will, on Sunday, was this idea, this fact that the same God, the same power that raised Jesus from the dead over 2,000 years ago is available to revive and redeem us today.
That's Romans 8:11.
That's
right. Paul said it better than I ever could, right? The same power that raised Christ from the dead is alive in us.
Yeah.
So, man, when you think about resurrection power, we have no idea how much power we have. There's that quote. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Coach Carter.
Yes.
But there's a point that the Hispanic kid that had gotten kicked out several times, and he quotes, the fear is that we're not enough. The fear is that we don't know how powerful we are. Say something like that.
Something like that.
But there's a great quote there, and I think we have no idea how much power we have, but not how much power we have, how much power Christ has in us. And the power to overcome, power over the enemy, power over sin, power over temptation. I mean, that's all the same power that raised Christ from the dead exists in us. We can partner with Jesus in doing incredible things in the world, but we don't believe it because the enemy keeps that shame thumb on us, keeping us down. And the day that we realize that we don't have to live that way anymore and that we have more power than we can ever imagine, that's the day when life and freedom begins.
Yeah. Well, and to the point of freedom, as we kind of wrap things up, you said this on Sunday as well, that when we find Jesus, when we find that redemption, when we, finally get to a point in our life where, like the Alexanders and many others, where they look up and they go, oh, and even Mary Magdalene, oh, that's Jesus, right? Or when we see him hold his hands out and it's like, it's right here, like there's proof of it. When we find that, when we have that moment, he forgives us, but he also forgives us completely. Like he doesn't hold on to anything, and I love that. And you would, I think, reference Romans chapter 8, verse 1. Therefore, there's now no condemnation for those who are in Jesus Christ, right? And so essentially the whole Easter story is based around this idea that, look up, it's Jesus. Let him take all that stuff from your past and even your present. Let him take it, wash it away, right? You even talked about that hymn yesterday, right? Just wash in the blood, it's gone, and walk in the freedom that he wants to give you. He literally died for the freedom that he wants to hand over to you.
So Jesus is not Hitch. Right. He's not go 90 and you go he'll go 90, you go the other 10.
Right. Yeah.
Or you go 90 and he'll go the other 10. He goes 100%.
That's right.
He does it all.
Yeah.
He doesn't forgive you mostly.
Right.
You're not mostly dead. That's
right.
Princess Bride reference. You're all the way dead, and only he can revive you, and he goes all the way into it. Yeah. He's not holding back one bit, and when he forgives completely. If any man is in Christ, 2 Corinthians 5:17, you're a new creation. You are made new. You're washed. Your blood is washed. Your sin is washed whiter than snow. You're not who you were. Yeah. And right. You have a completely new identity because of Jesus.
Yeah. He reserved nothing at all. I I mean, to the point of a criminal's death is what Scripture says, right?
Right.
So to kind of land the plane, stop missing Jesus. Right, he's right in front of us, right, and I think about just in reflection of your message, I think about the story of Moses and the burning bush. The only reason that Moses really saw the bush was because he chose to look up and acknowledge it. And I think for a lot of us, we're walking through life, Jesus is right there. We just haven't looked up and acknowledged him.
Yeah, and again, if you'll ask Jesus to show himself to you, you'll see him.
Yeah.
You'll see him all around you.
Oh,
You'll
yeah.
see him in others. You'll see him in situations and circumstances. And I talked about, for Thomas, he needed to touch the scars.
Yeah.
For Mary, she just needed to hear him say her name. For John, he just needed to look in and see the linens, see the grave clothes. It said he believed then. Mary believed and understood it with Jesus through the name. Thomas needed to touch the scars. I don't know what each person's chasm is, what kind of faith it's going to require, but Jesus does.
Yeah.
He knows exactly what you need, and he will go to whatever lengths necessary.
He'll reveal it.
100% of the way.
Yeah.
He withholds nothing.
Yeah. My grandfather, he was a preacher for 36 years and passed away almost 10 years ago now, but he used to have this thing he would tell us. He said, no one ever arrives in faith, but you'll know when you're maturing in faith when you can look at anything and see Jesus. And so now there's random, right? Yeah. There's random days that I'll be driving, especially on beautiful days like we've had over the last couple of weeks. It's kind of nice out and breezy. I'll roll the windows down, and there's just this moment of reflection where you're looking at the trees and the birds, and you're going, oh, I see you, God. I see you, so stop missing Jesus, right? So as we wrap up, what is it? Challenge yourself. What is it that you could be doing this week to maybe make an intentional effort to look up and to see Jesus? He's right there. He's right in front of you. He's omnipresent. He wants to meet with you. That's what we talked earlier. We started talking about it's the easiest game of hide and seek of all time, right? And you even said this yesterday, 2 days ago, whenever it was, on Sunday. You said he wants to be found. Just like when we're playing hide and seek with our kids, he wants to be found by you. So go and find him this week, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.